All right, so the first match that we're going to go through, other than the pre-show, Dolph Ziggler and Chris Jericho. I was surprised that this actually started off the pay-per-view, and originally I was thinking to myself, does that mean that Ziggler's going to cash in, and that's why they're doing this? Because they want to kind of give him that little bit of a break and explain that Sheamus isn't fresh, but Ziggler has had an hour or so to be able to uh, recharge his batteries and everything like that. Good match. Um, it wasn't as good as I was hoping, but I have to be self-critical about that and say it's probably because I had really, really high expectations for it. It's more than likely my judgment on the match than their performance in the match. I actually, between that and the Raw match that they had, I liked them both a lot, and I really wish we could see another match between the two of them. But of course, Chris Jericho loses the Raw match and gets quote unquote fired from the company.
Yeah, I'll have to play with Fozzy for half a year. Yeah.
Yeah,
He'll come back.
until probably WrestleMania season or so. Maybe even
Yeah, you gotta
Survivor
have that.
Series. I would love for him to come back at Survivor Series.
Yeah, that'd be nice. It'd be the first Survivor Series he's worked in forever, like 3 years.
Maybe
But
they'll
yeah,
actually not going to want to get rid of the Survivor Series pay-per-view if he does that, because they keep talking about that every year.
I don't get why he didn't lose at SummerSlam and then have him like quote unquote fired from SummerSlam instead of him being fired on Raw.
because they don't think ahead.
I think it was mostly they wanted to give Jericho at least one decent win because he
Yeah,
kept losing
pay-per-view.
to
Yeah, because
go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say that is his first pay-per-view victory all year, right? Like I can't think of another time he's won. He lost at Money in the Bank. He was suspended through No Way Out.
He lost
The
that.
lost to Sheamus in the Fatal 4. I think he even took the fall in the match. Lost to
He lost
Punk.
the
Lost to
Rumble.
Punk. Lost the Chamber, even though he got knocked out, but whatever. And then he got brogue kicked by Sheamus and to lose the Rumble. So that was his first pay-per-view victory all year. It's crazy. Yeah, I understand that. Like, and with the story was going, it was like, oh, he hasn't really lost his touch, even though he's going to lose his touch the next night and get fired.
You know
But
what I did like about that though? I liked how this really kind of put Ziggler over a lot more than I was expecting it to with the Ziggler win, because Ziggler wins when Vicky uh, interferes a little bit in their SummerSlam match, but then and I was like, they made it to where Jericho wins even though Vicky tried to help out and all that. Kind of makes Ziggler look a little worse. But then the next night they packed the punch a little bit better and they had it where Ziggler for the most part just won a clean match. So that kind of
yeah,
gets rid of that whole stigma, and it's more so now Ziggler gets ahead of the situation because he
yeah,
quote unquote fired Chris Jericho and retained his. And I loved that, by the way, that their little twist of contract versus contract. That's the stuff that they really need to do. They need to have interesting setups like that instead of just at the last minute we're gonna go, oh, you're fired, or if the other person wins, then nothing happens. Because then
yeah.
it'll be, well, I guess who's going to win that one. But contract versus contract, something was on the line. And I was actually watching it with my dad, and he hadn't been following too much of it the past few weeks. So he, I mean, I tell him all the stuff that we go through with the backstage things and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, oh, well, I guess Ziggler's going to lose the Money in the Bank. And it's exactly what they should be doing, where you expect one thing, another thing happened, and it's not just because they uh, changed it to surprise you. They surprised you in how they planned it. You know what I mean? Diatribe over.
Yeah. Back to the SummerSlam match. I thought it was very good. Very good for an opener too. On top of that, like a good way to kick off the show. Only major flaws, like he didn't really work like Ziggler's back or legs at all in like the walls of Jericho. Like I think he attempted for it once and Ziggler rolled out, and then the next time Jericho automatically gets him in, and he like gets the automatic tap out. Like there was no building up to any kind of submission, yet he tapped out anyway. That's a bit of nitpicking, but as far as overall action goes, it was a very good match. A part of me was wishing it didn't open the show and kind of got more time somewhere in the middle so that they could have like went on for longer or whatever. But it's nitpicking. But I thought the crowd was pretty into it from beginning to end, so it served its purpose. Gave Jericho a pay-per-view win. Very good stuff to kick off the show.
Any last
I
thoughts?
actually thought that Kane Danielson would start out that pay-per-view.
Yeah, I thought that could possibly be the opener too. That or the
Yeah,
Intercontinental Championship.
yeah, I was expecting the Intercontinental title match to actually open the pay-per-view. So, yeah, well, what's our rating system for this? Do we even have one anymore, or
The
like?
rating system that I have for the most part, although I always forget about it every week when we're doing this, is you either give it a 3 count pinfall, a 2 count near fall, or a 1 count kick out. Basically, you give it 3 stars, 2 stars, kind of a good, bad, meh.
Oh, well, this is good. I'd give it a 3 count for sure. This is a really good way to kick off the pay-per-view.
I'll give it a 3 count too.
I'd have to overall give it a 3 count. It wasn't as I kind of expected a 4 count almost, the way that, or a 5 count or whatever it was, with King Kong Bundy. Wasn't it a 5 count? I think. Could be 5 or something. I don't remember what that is for sure, but I would still give it 3. I think that this was one of the best parts of the whole night. So next part, we are going to go through the not the Intercontinental, the Daniel Bryan versus Kane match, and then move on to the Intercontinental title.